Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Documenting Student Learning Brightspace Portfolio. My name is Josh Van Wyk. I'm a community manager here at D2L, and we're going to get started in just a moment. But before I hand over the microphone to our presenter today, Jessica, I would like to just point out a couple of things on the webinar platform here. Throughout the presentation, I encourage you to ask any questions you might have about the content in the Q&A pod, which you'll find along the bottom of your screen. There should be a few menu items. Q&A is a great place to put all of those questions. We will take some time at the end of the presentation to go over those. If you encounter any technical difficulties, the audio is not working or whatever, please also pop a note into the Q&A pod. I promise I won't make you wait until the end to answer that. I will address that right away. But all other questions, we'll keep those to the end just so we don't interrupt the flow here. Today's webinar is being recorded. Registrants should receive an email with a link to that recording. And I think we will probably also pop that up on Brightspace Community. And I think that's about everything from me. It is my pleasure to introduce Jessica Schussler, who will present today's webinar. Jessica, take it away.
Thanks, Josh, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure a lot of you have just finished up a full day of teaching, so I want to start off by saying thank you for putting some time aside to join us for the next 30 minutes of the webinar and 15-minute question period to learn about, in my humble opinion, an amazing app for documenting student learning, and of course the comprehensive learning platform that the app is a part of, all of which that you as an Ontario educator have free access to. So as Josh said, my name is Jessica, and I'm a VLE consultant with D2L. I'm a former teacher with WRDSB, which is the Waterloo Region District School Board. I've got my Twitter handle up there if you want to follow me. My last name is just too long to bother with, so my handle is just Jessica Schuss. I frequently post about D2L events or updates relevant to Ontario teachers, and then there's also the more broad D2L handle that you can follow as well. All right, so in this very short webinar, here are the things I'm hoping to pack in today. So as a former teacher, I know how busy things are, so I wanted to honor your time by keeping this webinar short and concise. At least that's what I'm hoping. So if during the webinar you missed something, as Josh mentioned, there will be a recording sent out to everyone who registered. So not to worry, you can go back and watch things if things were a bit quick. But be sure to stick around until the end. As Josh mentioned, we do have a 15-minute Q&A session where you can ask specific questions and get those answered. So I'd like to start off by making sure we're all on the same page with a couple of names or terms you might have heard floating around when talking about the portfolio tool. So firstly, D2L is the company that makes the learning platform Brightspace. So much like Apple is the company that makes the iPhone, D2L makes the learning platform Brightspace. And then you also might have heard the term VLE or Ontario's VLE. So VLE stands for Virtual Learning Environment and is made up of Brightspace, so that learning platform that I mentioned, as well as other digital tools and resources offered by the Ministry of Education. So this entire virtual learning environment, including Brightspace, is licensed by the Ministry for every single Ontario teacher. And so this learning platform, Brightspace, what is that? So it's essentially a virtual extension of your physical classroom. It's comprised of many tools, including Portfolio. So you can think of Brightspace as a whole suite of tools available to you. And Portfolio is just one of those tools in that suite. So if you're just starting out and you're just learning about the platform, maybe you're just starting with Portfolio, and then as you get more comfortable, maybe you'll dabble into some of the other tools available, like the content tool, the assignments tool, the quizzes tool, discussions tool, just to name a few. All right, so with that whole kind of context out of the way, let's kind of dig into Portfolio a little bit more around and what that is. So starting from the student's perspective, it's a digital portfolio tool that allows students to capture and reflect on evidence of learning in the moment. And I emphasize students there because the app was created to allow students as young as kindergarten to independently capture and reflect on their own evidence of learning. So they can use a shared device. So in Ontario classrooms, often we see in the younger grades an iPad or shared iPads in the classroom. And you can use the shared device option for the portfolio app for that. Or for the older kids who have their own device, they can download the portfolio app and add to their portfolio directly from their device. So those are kind of the two main modes of the app. And we'll look at those a little bit more closely when we go into the demo. One of my favorite parts about the portfolio app or the portfolio tool is that it builds year over year. So at the end of each year, all of the artifacts that a student has collected within their portfolio get wrapped up in a nice, neat little package and stored by year at the bottom of their portfolio area, which they can actually continue to access as the years go on. So theoretically, if a student were to start using portfolio in kindergarten and use that all the way to grade 12, they would have that documentation of their learning throughout their entire learning journey and beyond, really, since Brightspace is used in many colleges and universities as well. And in fact, another great kind of neat feature add on to that is the fact that when the student goes to a new grade, so say for example, a student goes from kindergarten to grade 1, their new grade 1 teacher will be able to see all of the student's previous work and can kind of use that as a diagnostic, get an idea of where the students are at or what they worked on last year. Now for the teacher, portfolio is a great tool to help with that triangulation of evidence, bringing together those observations, conversations, and products. It can be a tool for all types of assessment, including assessment for, as, and of learning. There's lots of great features built in to help you assess and evaluate, including areas to provide feedback to the student, sort and categorize the artifacts, even associate curriculum expectations and assess against those curriculum expectations if your board has set that up. There's also a parent sharing functionality. Now, parent sharing availability is dependent on whether your board has configured that functionality. Now, I know we have a lot of teachers joining us today from Toronto District School Board, and so for any of those teachers wondering, I can share that TDSB is in the final stages of the technical setup required for parent sharing functionality. Once that's in place, TDSB will be communicating information on how to invite parents into the Brightspace for Parents tool, which is the tool that parents use to view portfolio artifacts, among other things. So keep an eye out for an announcement on that from TDSB. I know they expect it to be up and running before the end of the calendar year. And then for anyone that's joining from another board, you would just want to contact your TELT contact, your Technology Enabled Learning and Teaching contact, who would be able to let you know if it's already configured or if they're planning on configuring it. And if you're not sure how to contact your TELT contact, just stick around to the end and I'll be showing you how to access or how to find out that information. All right, checked off one already. Next one is the live demonstration. So I'm going to pull up, I'm going to be using my phone to demonstrate this. And so I'm going to mirror my phone on here. Let me just pull this out and refresh my page here. There we go. All right, so on my mobile device here, which is just an Android cell phone, but you could use an Apple device, an iPad, or an iPhone as well. So I've downloaded the Portfolio app, which you can see here, and I'm going to launch that Portfolio app. And I'll flip my phone so it's landscape here. And you'll see when you enter it, actually, the first time you launch the app, it'll ask you if you want to access class device or my device. So my device is for students who have their own device and want to log into the app to be able to document their learning from their own device. The class device is what you want to select if you have shared devices in your classroom. And so I'm going to use class device. And then you see that we've got two modes available, the in-class mode and the in-class with Funster. So in-class with Funster was designed for early and non-readers to be documenting their learning independently. So the idea was, and we did test this with little 4-year-olds who came in, I'm broadcasting from Kitchener, Ontario here, and so we brought kids from the Waterloo Region District School Board to test out the app, and the idea was to create an app that a 3- and 4-year-old would be able to use independently. So I'm going to demo the In Class with Funster first, so I'll select that. And the first thing I want to do, and you can see my lively classroom here, which is not a classroom at all, it's a tiny little room, but hopefully this would actually be happening in a classroom. And what you need to get started is these QR codes. And these QR codes, I'll show you a little bit later where you can find them. But for now, just know that you just need them for the shared device option. And so you'll notice the QR code, there's my class card and then there's student cards. And so then the first thing they're asking is to scan the class card. So I'm gonna hover this QR code reader over top of my class card, and that opens up my kind of sample class that I'm demoing from. So I'll hit let's go. And like I said, this is the Funster mode. And so we've got buttons on both sides for the kids to wake them up. And when I wake them up, it's going to ask for the student's pass card. So each student has a unique QR code that identifies them, just because the little ones. The little ones don't always know how to authenticate, so it's easier if we. Can I see some of your cool work? And just letting Funster interrupt me there with his audio prompts. The QR code reader actually works quite well. So even when as I was just kind of hovering near that one sample student, it grabbed that QR code and has essentially logged or kind of logged that student in the app to say, all right, I want to, the evidence that I'm taking a picture of is going to be this student's work. And so you imagine the student is holding this device now, and now he's ready to take a picture. And so as soon as I hit on the camera button on either side, the camera will automatically launch. And the thing with Funster is it will actually automatically take the picture as soon as the child's holding the picture still. And so we did notice in testing that the little ones sometimes haven't developed their photography skills so much yet. So we found that if we just have a countdown that will automatically count down as soon as they're holding it still, then that tends to produce the least amount of blurry pictures. So I'll launch the camera. And at this point, the student needs to decide, do I like the way this looks or not? And so I'll say yes, just by clicking on yes over here. Can I hear more about your work? Tap the button to start recording. And so this is the kind of the most important part, I think, of Portfolio is that whole metacognition, that whole reflection piece, adding some context to whatever they've taken that picture of, whether that's a tower of blocks that a kindergarten teacher has built or some sort of experiential learning that a student is doing well on a co-op term, to a science lab in a grade 9 class. Whatever they're taking a picture of, the app is going to prompt them to make a reflection on it. And so it really just launches an audio recorder for recording the student's voice. And then it's up to you, the teacher, if you want to scaffold or give some sentence starters for the younger ones, or scaffold what a good kind of reflection looks like, or what kind of things you want to hear in that reflection. So I've hit yes, talk time, and then it starts recording, and then I just hit it again to finish. And then you'll notice that as soon as I finish recording, it automatically logs the student out, and now it's ready to go for the next student to document their learning. And it's a security feature built in, especially with the little ones. Inevitably, they're gonna set that iPad down, run, and start doing something else, and it's ready for the next student who goes and uses it. All right, I'm gonna close that now, and I just want to show you the other mode. So let me close the app. And so if you want to change from mode to mode, you have to fully close the app. So on an Android, swiping up and then swiping it away, or on an iPhone, double tapping and swiping it away. And then when you relaunch, you'll get that question again. Do you want in-class mode or in-class with Funster? And so if I do in-class mode, same thing, you scan your class card at the beginning of the workflow. You only need to do this once. at the beginning, and then it's going to ask for the student's pass card. And so I hover over the student pass card, it scans it, and you'll notice this is the in-class mode. So it doesn't have that monster anymore. You'll notice the photo isn't automatically taking right now. There's a couple other options like record a video. You can also switch it around and do selfie mode. But I'll take a little video real quick. So I'll just start the video camera, video my lovely little webinar room. Hit stop. And then once I'm done recording, you'll notice there's a couple more options that we didn't see in Funster, right? So I can give my work a title. I can do an audio reflection as well, but I can also do a written reflection here. So I could type some things in here. And so I'll just say done, ready, and then we're done. It's ready for the next student to pick up and start using. All right, so that's in a nutshell how the app works. If I pull up now, just go back to my PowerPoint. The next question is always, well, now where did all those pictures go? And where is this Brightspace platform? Where can I go and look at all these photos? And what can I do with all of this information? And so our second part of this demo is to look at that teacher workflow, or in some cases for the older students, the student workflow as well, because students can log into the Brightspace environment as well and manage their portfolios as well. And so I'll jump back over to the environment here, and this is TDSB's Brightspace environment. And so you notice I'm at tdsb.elearningontario.ca. I'll show you at the end how to get here. Of course, typing in that URL will work, but I'll show you some other places that you can access it quickly. And so right now I'm just at the board level homepage right now. And I'm going to go into that class of mine. And so if you remember, it was called sample class, and there it is there. So I'm going to jump into that class. And this is essentially my virtual classroom with all of those tools, or some of those tools that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, including Portfolio. Right? And so I'm going to jump into Portfolio now. Now that I'm inside my class, I go into the Portfolio tool. And you see I've got 3 students in my class, and I can see their latest piece of evidence kind of becomes the background of the little tile of their portfolio, which I think looks really cute. And so if I go over, I've just taken a couple pictures with the app. And so if I go into the approve evidence area, you can see those photos that I literally just took. Waiting for approval. And so as a teacher, I can decide if I want to have to approve or not. In this case, the default is set up that the teacher has to approve items to the portfolio, but you can change that if you'd rather not have to do this step and just have items going directly into the student's portfolio. So when I go into an artifact, this was the one that was collected with Funster, so there's no title because there's no typing within Funster, but I could add a title here at this point if I wanted. I can listen to the student's audio reflection. And sometimes, you know, especially with the little ones, you might find that maybe the picture wasn't really exactly what they were trying to take a picture of, or maybe their reflection doesn't really match up with their picture. And so I like this area underneath here where you can add thoughts on behalf of the student. And so I could, if I was a little confused or needed some more context or just wanted to question the student a little bit more, I could call the student over and type some of his thoughts in here and save them, which is nice. Down below that, I also have the ability to categorize the artifacts. So if, you know, if there's a lot of artifacts, I want to be able to quickly sort and find ones that I'm looking for, so I can use the categories for that. Now there's some board provided categories here that you can quickly use, and you see as I click them, they show up down here, or you can create your own categories. And so if I put like science, for example, I could use that. Science I'd already created, so it pops up, but if I've never used one before, say if it's, I don't know, language, for example, hit enter, and then it shows up there. Up above here, there's an area where you can give feedback, and so I can write some feedback in this area here. This would be visible to parents if I shared this with parents, but there is an area for teacher-only feedback as well. So if you, or teacher-only comments, I should say. So if you you'd put feedback to the students that would be visible to the parents as well in here. And then if you have some things, kind of notes that you want to collect for yourself, maybe it's a note about something you're going to write on the report card, or a note for yourself to go back and reteach something, you can put it in here. You will notice that in this private area, there's visible and hidden. And so if it's visible, that means it's visible to other educators in your virtual classroom space. So a common example of that might be in kindergarten, you have the ECE and the teacher, and they might want to collaborate in that private area. And so that if you make it visible, then the other educator in the room will be able to see those. If it's private, then literally only you will ever be able to see it, even when the student goes on to the next year's teacher. And if the teacher were to look back into those portfolio artifacts, those are forever and always private. And then below that, there's parent sharing. So in one click, I can share this with parents. And then this would be visible in the Brightspace for Parents tool, where they would log in and see portfolio artifacts as well as other things. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more in the third webinar happening in December, where we kind of show the parent view and what are some other things that they can see in addition to portfolio artifacts. And then one area that I kind of skipped over was right here is expectations. So I can add expectations to an artifact. And so you see I've brought in some overall expectations for a language course. I can select an expectation. And some boards actually even have an achievement scale set up where you can assess against those expectations as well. And those feed into an expectations progress page as well. So if you see that, that's what that is. All right, let me jump out of here. And I can go ahead and approve that. I'm happy with that. And I'll go back to the class portfolios, and you'll see now that this one student has now that picture as their background. So that's kind of the big stuff that you can do in portfolio. The class pass cards are right up here. So if you remember, I mentioned that you can find where to find them within portfolio. And so if I click there, you'll see it'll just open up a new tab with the QR codes generated, and you can print that. I've got a couple other options of how to manage those QR codes. All right, let me jump back to my PowerPoint. There we go. There's some examples of, these are photos taken at schools in Waterloo, and these are different ways that teachers have managed their QR codes. All right, so how do you access it? How do you get to this Brightspace environment? So I talked about the URL, of course, which is just tdsb.elearningontario.ca if you're with the Toronto District School Board. If you're with another board, you can go to d2l.com/VLE, and there's a little widget there where you can select your board, and that will give you your TELC contact, so the person who kind of manages the Brightspace environment for your board. You'll find their contact information as well as the URL where you would log in. But TDSB, as I said, you can go directly to the URL, or if you log into AW under resources, there's Brightspace, and that will take you right there as well. And so once you get into the environment, you kind of have 3 steps to get started. So the first step is to find your course. Now, this Brightspace is connected to your student information system, so it's not necessarily like other applications where you're creating the class and you're, giving out a share code or, importing all of your students. None of that. You don't have to do that with Brightspace. With Brightspace, it's connected with your SIS. It's a ministry license tool, so security and privacy are at the forefront of top of mind, I think, for the ministry and for school boards. And so part of that security piece is ensuring that the student information system is the system of record for people that are in your class or students that are in your virtual class. And so all of your classes, for that reason, are automatically created for you according to whatever you report on in the SIS system. So when you log into Brightspace, you actually should, in most cases, already have those courses sitting there with your students already all logged in, waiting for you to use. So the first step is finding your course, which, again, if you're TDSB on the TDSB website, or TDSB Brightspace course, down below the My Courses widget, there's this welcome widget where we give you instructions on how to find your course and what to do if you can't find your course. And then if you're in any of the other boards, if you're not able to find your course, just contact your TELC contact and they can help you out. The next step is to activate your course. So once you find your course, you'll want to activate it. And the easiest way to do that is to go to the My Courses widget, click on the 3 little dots and course offering information. And if you scroll down about halfway through, there's an active courses active area. And so if you check that off, that will make it so that your students are able to see the course and that you're able to generate QR codes and see the students in your portfolio tool within your course. And that's it. Once you've done that, then you're ready to go. You can go to portfolio and see your students there, and away you go. All right, so to finish it off, I just want to talk about a couple of resources that you have available to you. So your board may have its own specially created resource area. There's some boards that have separate sites or have resources right within the Brightspace platform. With TDSB, you'll notice at the top of the nav bar, there's a Get Help Here area where there's lots of different links to different help documentation that you can take a look at. 2 other really good places to go that are actually linked in this list as well is if you go to d2l.com/VLE. I'll pop there now actually. So right here on this site, if you scroll down to the bottom, all the way down, there's VLE training resource videos. And so if I go there, you can see there's really popular kind of common workflows that Ontario teachers often want to do. These are tutorials that were designed and created for Ontario teachers. So they're very tailored, very useful. So have a look at those. There is a portfolio section right here where you can find short little videos on how to do different things within portfolio, including the one that we didn't talk about today, which is the My Device mode. And then there's also d2l.com/tutorials. And that takes us to the YouTube channel that we have, which is Brightspace Tutorials. Same thing, very kind of short little 1 to 3 minute videos. Those are a little bit more broad than our Ontario specific ones, but you'll find other videos in there as well. All right. And I think I've got that all in with a couple minutes to spare, which is great. I'd like to open it up now to the question period. I hope I've given you a little bit of an idea of how the webinar, or sorry, how Portfolio works. I do want to call out before the question period begins 2 other webinars that we're offering in this series. The second one is on November 4th, and the third one is on December 3rd. So the second one is we're going to have 2 guest attendees from the Toronto District School Board who are going to talk about how they use Portfolio in their classroom. So a kindergarten teacher and a secondary teacher, so you'll get the whole gamut. And then the third one being on Brightspace for Parents, where you'll see how Brightspace for Parents works, what parents see, what tools are connected to Brightspace for Parents, which will be especially useful for those boards that are just getting started with Brightspace for Parents and want to see that parent view. So thank you so much, and we'll start off the question period.
Great. Well, I have a bunch of questions here for you, Jessica. First question is Brightspace supported by EFTO?
I'd probably recommend talking to your unions if you have any questions related to that. That's probably the best way to find out that information.
When will parent sharing be available for the TDSB?
Yeah, so they're hoping to have that, like I said, they're in the final stages of completing the technical setup required for Brightspace for Parents, and they're hoping to have it up and running, I said, before the end of the calendar year, so before the end of December. And they will be announcing when that happens. So keep an eye out for an announcement on that.
Great, great. Question here, can I send the recorded version of this webinar Absolutely. If you have registered for this webinar, even if you were not able to attend today, you will automatically get an email later tomorrow that includes a link to the recording. So yes, you will certainly have access to that. All right, here's a question. If on my iPhone Brightspace app, I've already clicked on my portfolio and not class profile, how can I change it back?
If I understood the question right, the best thing to do is to close the app and just relaunch the app. If you're getting lost and aren't really sure where you are, I would just close it and relaunch it, and then you'll get that that decision again where you can decide my device or class device.
Great. I have a question here about using my device. How do you access the portfolio using my device?
Can you say that one again, Josh?
How to access the portfolio using my device?
Right. So there's on the, let me close my PowerPoint here. On this d2l.com/VLE, if you go to those training resources that I pointed out, under the portfolio tool, there's the My Device mode, and that'll tell you everything you need to know for using the My Device mode.
Great. Is it true that Brightspace will be replacing Academic Workspace, Academic Workspace, AW? If so, when will this happen?
That's a good question. I'd probably recommend directing that question to TDSB specifically.
Great. Is the ability for co-teachers or educators to view private notes coming soon?
Yeah. So I talked about that when I showed the private teacher notes area. So that's already available. That was new. If you knew Brightspace last year, that functionality wasn't there, but it's come out in the last couple months or so. So now there's a toggle to when you add a private teacher note. If it says visible, then it's visible to other educators in your classroom space. If it's hidden, then only you can see it.
Great, thank you. Will ECEs at the TDSB be given access to Brightspace?
I believe they have an account right now, and they can, but I would recommend asking that kind of question to TDSB specifically. I do know that we have Kevin Bradbeer, who's in the webinar today, who's answering some questions via the chat. So Kevin, if you want to address that question in the chat, you're welcome to do that. It was just around whether ECEs can access Brightspace.
All right, here's another question. Can you set up assignments first so that the portfolio item can be directed to a specific place or label with more assigned expectations?
Right. So right now, the current functionality is that the assignments tool is very, very separate from the portfolio tool. So portfolio right now, you have the ability to add curriculum expectations to and be able to assess against them. And that functionality is being built right now to feed into or currently feeds into the expectations progress page. We're continuing to build out the expectations progress page. If you're familiar with that area at all, that's where you're going to see continued development around more functionality in portfolio. I know the team is considering exploring the idea of connecting the assignment tool and portfolio, but nothing's planned around that as of yet.
All right. How can a classroom teacher add another educator, for example, an ECE or a teacher librarian?
How can they get a Brightspace course?
Not totally sure. How can a classroom teacher add another educator?
Oh, add another educator. Sorry, I didn't hear you right.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Yeah, so am I still screen sharing? Yeah. So if I go to, if I'm inside of a class, so you can ask the educator to add you to their class, and they can do so through the class list. And so if I click on class list, there's add participants, and you can say add existing users and search for the username and add them in to the class. And then you'll see you can add them as a student or likely a teacher, or there might be another role that you can set them as. And so the educator would decide, do I want them to have student permissions where they can do things that students can do, like participate in a quiz or submit an assignment, or do I want them to have the same permissions as me where they can change the content of my course and look at assignment submissions. And so it just depends on what you need them in there for.
As a teacher, how do I go about uploading students' work to their portfolios?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually meant to mention that. So thank you for bringing that up. So if I click on portfolio, when I go into a student's portfolio, so this view right here is actually the same view that, in this example, Aliazia would have of her portfolio. And so as a student or a teacher, I can click on this button here, add to portfolio, and then I can upload a file right from my computer, or I like this for the older students who might have files in their Google Drive that they want to add to their portfolio, they can do so right here.
Great. Question here. With my current class, would QR codes be ready for my class list already when I log in? And this individual is with the TDSB.
Yeah, so a couple of things to check if you're confused. Once you find your class, if you're good with that, go to your class list and see if you have students on it. So that's the first thing. If there's no students on there, then I'd recommend checking out that widget where we talk about some troubleshooting issues or who you should contact, likely logging a ticket with the IT service desk. If you do see students, then you want to, of course, make sure that your course is activated. So going to that course offering information, which, by the way, you can also get there through course admin if you're within a course. Go to course offering information and check off that is active box. Now, one caveat, when you check this off, Portfolio is built on a microservice, which basically means that it updates, it pushes updates to itself kind of every 5 minutes or so. So after you activate, if you go right to Portfolio after activating, you might not see students right away. You might still see your courses inactive. It might just take a minute or so for those students to generate. So give it a minute, and then if you still don't see the students generating, then there's something obviously off, and you'll want to contact D2L support or Toronto District School Board IT support.
All right, I got another question about the recording, and yeah, we will send that out. You'll get an email tomorrow with a link to this recording. Question here, I am using the portfolios with my kindergarten students. Is there an easy way for me to quickly send photos to their portfolios? And I think that might be what you were just talking about there, but.
Yeah.
I don't know if that falls in the quickly.
Sorry, I was thinking there for a second. So we do have an update coming up that's going to be pushed out to the app. It's going to be an update to the app that allows teachers to select a student. So basically they would log into the app using the My Device mode as a teacher, and then they would be able to see all their students and take a picture of something their students done and push that out to their portfolio. It'll be the first slice of it. So the D2L kind of works on a continuous delivery. So we push out updates and kind of build functionality as we get feedback from clients. So our first slice will just be the ability to take a picture and then push it to one student's portfolio. But we are hoping to continue to build on that and be able to add to multiple students' portfolios in the future. So that update will be coming out in the next couple weeks, actually. And in the meantime, while you are waiting for that update, another option is, of course, for you to just launch a browser from your phone and log in, which you can save it as an icon on your phone as well, and launch Brightspace. You can take a picture. You can go into portfolio, go into a student's portfolio, just like I did here on the browser here. It's just that you're on a phone, so it's smaller. And you just click on portfolio. You can upload from your library or take a picture on the spot and add to the student's portfolio.
All right. Under portfolio with Funster, is it possible to turn off the talk option?
I don't believe so. There are some advanced options when you first launch the app, but I don't think that's an option. I'd probably recommend just turning the volume down to mute.
That's an easy solution. Yeah. All right, somebody asking if there will be an email with a link to register for the upcoming sessions. Jessica, you and I can tackle that. I think we can probably make that happen.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the registration links are already up there. If you go to d2l.com/tdsb, all the links are there to register.
Oh, great.
Slash TDSB. So right here, this page. Whoops, not tdsb.com/tdsb, d2l.com. There we go.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so they're right there. Here are the other two, and there's your registration links right there.
Oh, terrific. Question here, when I activate my class, I am still unable to see any students enrolled. How do I fix this problem?
So I would, the first thing to do is to check to see if they're in the class list. If they're not in the class list, then I'd recommend then that means there's something with the fact that your students aren't getting enrolled, and I'd log a ticket with the IT service desk.
Perfect. When reporting, is there a way to view all feedback to a class?
I can't think of a way to bulk look at all the feedback. It's kind of you go into the artifact and you look at the feedback.
Can I take photos already taken from Google Keep and add to portfolio?
So there is so if the photo is on your computer somewhere, then you can add to the portfolio. So here, right here, add to portfolio. I'm guessing if it's from another application, you'd have to take that photo and make sure it's accessible either in a folder on your phone if you're doing it on your phone, or on your computer somewhere, and then uploading it from there.
All right. Can two courses be combined to see a split class all in one page?
Yes, they can. That involves course mapping, and I might ask Kevin to answer that one in the chat, because it kind of varies by board to see who, in terms of what the process is. But Kevin, yeah, if you want to write in the chat how that works for TDSB, I'm assuming that teachers from TDSB, how to go about getting split classes merged, that would be great.
All right. A question here. I am a learning coach who wants to use Portfolio, but I do not have a class. How can I use this platform to document learning with learners and educators?
Yeah, so for that one, you'll notice if I go to the homepage of TDSB, there's this course request form. And so this course request form is a Google form where you can request a course shell to be made for you, and then you can add students to that shell once you have it. So it's a short form that you fill out, and then I think the turnaround time is usually 24 to 48 hours or so for you to get your course shell. But that is a TDSB specific request. Just remember that I'm from D2L, so it's a TDSB specific request. If you have questions on it, I would direct them to TDSB.
Great. Can you repeat how classes can be added to your teacher dashboard? Looks like a search of 1920 indicates that the course roster has not been linked to Brightspace yet.
So if you're not seeing any course, if you search 1920 and no courses show up, but you are reporting on courses this year, and you're not seeing those courses, I'd recommend communicating with TDSB. So down here, we have instructions on what to do if you don't see your courses. So log a ticket with the IT client service desk.
Great. Question here, are you able to document teacher learning on Portfolio?
Yeah, so if it's like for your own professional development, it depends on how the board has the permissions set up. I'm trying to remember how TDSB has them set up, but because it can vary. But basically, if you're a teacher, if you click on your name, if you see my portfolio there, if you click on that and you see courses in that area, then you'd be able to upload documents to for your own learning. However, you do need to be more than likely you need to be enrolled as a student into a course. So again, unless your board has set up a course for professional development for teachers, I'm thinking it'll likely be empty for you, but I would check that area out. And if that's something you want, perhaps you could talk to TDSB about that.
Great. And I think we actually may have just touched on this, but I'll ask it. Can teacher, librarians, or other prep teachers create a class and access Brightspace?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's that course request form.
Right. So, okay.
Again, yeah.
Oh, great. I don't see my classes in the home page when I open my Brightspace app. How do I get my classes?
So I'd recommend, again, if you're having trouble finding your courses, just have a look at this widget here where it talks about how to find your courses and what to do if you don't see them.
Great. When parent access becomes available, can parents comment on the pictures taken in class and the comments made by the teacher, or do they have permissions to only view the content?
So we'll talk about that lots in the Brightspace for Parents webinar. Yeah, to answer your question, they can only view. It's a view. We think of Brightspace for Parents as a window into the classroom. So the idea is just giving them kind of a view into things that are happening in the classroom to open up conversations at home with the student.
All right. Can the resources available in Brightspace be uploaded to Google Classroom?
I'm not sure which resources you mean. Like there's courses available. There's e-learning courses that only work on Brightspace, just because Brightspace is a learning management system. Google Classroom isn't a learning management system, so it doesn't accept course packages. So if that's what you mean, if you mean using an e-learning course, those are available only through Brightspace. But yeah.
Okay. I can't seem to log into the Portfolio app under my device. It states that it cannot connect to the school. It worked about a month ago, but has not worked recently.
Yeah, so I'd probably recommend you kind of have, so there's the IT client service desk, and then D2L also has a 24-hour support line that you can call as well. So in the Get Help Here area, I think we put it on here, right here, FAQ and live chat. If you click on that, you can contact a D2L support agent. And that goes for any of those questions around, like, I can't see my courses, I can't log in, things like that. I'd recommend directing to TDSB. If you can't see your course, I'd recommend directing that to TDSB. If you're having more technical functionality issues, like there's an error or something, you can direct that to D2L and chat with an agent. But in any case, no matter who you contact, they can help you out. And if they aren't able to help you, then they'll send you to vice versa, TDSB or D2L, depending on who could handle it.
All right. I think that might address this next question as well. Could you please review how to activate my course? I'm on the website and I see the course.
Oh, yay. All right, good. If you see your course, just as a reminder again from the My Courses widget, you can click on the 3 dots, click on course offering information. This is, of course, dependent on your courses being pinned. So if you don't see your courses here, go up to the waffle here and make sure you pin your course. So click the little pin here, and that will make it show up in the My Courses widget. Click on the course offering information and scroll down to about the middle where you'll see they activate. So let me just get there again, course offering information. Right there, course is active. Make sure that's checked off.
Great. I have a question here. Can I use Portfolio to create a professional portfolio without having a class of students?
So in order to use Portfolio, you need to be enrolled in a course as a student. So unless you're enrolled in a course as a student, you can't build a portfolio. It's only students who have the permissions or the functionality to be able to build a portfolio.
If you have an inactive course, can you rename and change the info in it for something that applies this year, or do you have to request a new course?
So if you want to change the name of the course, you absolutely can. Now there's different behaviors for your SIS integration. So in some cases, actually, if you change your course, the next day it will, your SIS integration will change the course name back. But you can give it a try, which I'll show you first. And then if it is changing it back because of your SIS integration, I'll show you another another option. So you can go to course admin, and under course offering information, that same place we went to activate the course, there's course offering name, and you can change the name there.
All right.
If that doesn't work, if it ends up getting switched back for you, another place where you can change it, it's kind of a nice compromise, is this banner here. So if you have a banner on your homepage, you can customize that text and change the name there. And that will show up in the My Courses widget. The name will still be the same up here, but at least the banner will be different.
All right. So I know that we're actually over time.
Oh, we are.
We have a handful of questions left. So I'm going to run through these, and then I got a few more minutes, and I'm afraid I have to hop off. But let's take a look here.
The other thing we did, Josh, is last time, if you remember, we just grabbed the leftover questions and then I responded to them in written form and we posted them. We could do that again.
Okay, sure. Well, I got a couple minutes if you have a couple minutes.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Will there be a Funster update that welcomes the individual student by name? Help them know they've scanned the right code.
That's a great idea. I don't know if the team is specifically working on that right now, but I do love the idea and happy to pass it along.
Great. Is there a way for educators to move evidence from one portfolio to another instead of just deleting it? Maybe a student scanned the wrong QR code is the example here.
Yeah, I think the way that you'd have to, you could download, you wouldn't have to delete it. You could download the piece of evidence and re-upload it into the proper students. You would lose the reflection with that though. It would just be the artifact. That'd probably be the closest you could get to moving it directly.
Okay. How do you delete expired courses?
So you don't need to there is no way for a teacher to delete courses. The best kind of option to keep your space clean if you feel like you have a lot of courses is to really just use the My Courses widget. So you see right here, I just have 3 courses pinned, and so I just see those courses. The waffle is I really only use the first time I'm going to a course to pin it, and if that list is really long, you don't ever have to go back there. You can keep your space clean in the My Courses widget. So that's nice for all your current courses.
Excellent. Can I enroll myself as a student in my course?
What you probably want to do if you're looking to see like what the student can see, it depends on why you want to do that. I guess I would ask, you can't do that because then you wouldn't have the functionality you wouldn't be able to do as much as what an instructor can do in a course. But maybe this will be helpful if I show you that you can view as a student when you're inside a course. So when I'm in a course, or even here, I can click on my name and then there's this view as option. If I hit change, you'll see all the roles that you can view as, likely a student role and maybe an educator role and maybe a couple other roles. But you can click on, say if I say view as student, that will refresh your page and I'll be able to see what the student would see. And then once I'm done, I can hit the X. Although if that question was related more toward, I don't know if that was the same person who was asking about using Portfolio as a professional learning space.
I think
a good option, yeah, it might be a good option for that. Actually, you could request a course shell created for you and ask to be enrolled as a student in that course, and then that would be your little professional learning space.
Excellent. All right. Last question here. How do I generate a QR code? I am in my class. How do I generate the QR code?
So if you are in your class and you see your students, let me go to sample class again. Let me just get back there. And so I've gone to the class list. I see all my students there. I go to I've activated my class, and now I see my students in portfolio. There should be a button here that says print class pass cards. And so when you click that, that generates a PDF that you can print out.
Oh, excellent. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today. I really am thrilled at the level of engagement and all these great questions. Very useful. We are going to have to wrap it up here, but thank you so much, and hopefully we see you all at the next webinar.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.